Okay, I'm turning on this fucking light again, and I'm really hoping, since I left it charged forever, it'll just stay lit. All right. Hello, welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm still Corwin Heller.
And uh yeah, welcome to the show. Today is March 17th, right around 7 p.m. and NFL free agency is open and popping off. So there's a bunch of players that have moved around. The quarterback situation in the NFL seems as though it's finally gaining some clarity. There's been increased discussion around Russell Wilson. The Deshaun Watson news has been quiet, but slots have been getting filled in other places, and the Bears continue to be one big hot clusterfuck. And we're here to talk about it. So, without any further ado, Corwin, you're ready to get started.
We didn't have any ado to begin with, so I don't know why we would need any further.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
You want to start? So usually, if you've listened to the podcast before, usually Corwin and I just kind of like look at the free agency tracker and go chronologically because it's very easy. However, I am kind of actually feeling starting with quarterbacks just because we've spent so much time in that conversation. Yeah, you're good with that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So let's take a peek at let's go division by division. That might be the easiest way of doing it to conversationally so that we can kind of work our way through it. So in the AFC East, the Bills did nothing. We expected them to do nothing. They did nothing. Miami, who I don't think necessarily needed to do much since they have Tua Tagovailoa, and it's kind of assumed that that's what they were going to be rocking with during the season. They did sign Jacoby Brissett, which I think is actually a great signing for them since it takes some pressure off Tua to be game one ready. Like you have to be the starter, and I think it allows him a little bit more room and a little bit of a quarterback competition, a guy with a little bit more experience like Jacoby, who can come in and kind of, be a steady hand while the young guys getting used to it. But what do you think about the Brissett signing?
I don't think they would have brought Brissett in for a full competition. I think you draft Tua with, what was it, like the 6th overall pick last year?
Sure.
He's your guy. Like he's your starter. I know he was hurt a little bit last year, and he's definitely had his injury history at Alabama. I think this is just kind of one of those high-end bargain quarterback, high-end backup signings that they got at a discount because the contract wasn't that big for a quarterback. It's very affordable.
Yeah, it's 1 year, $5 million.
And by not very big, I mean fucking minuscule. So this is honestly a great signing just for them to be able to have a guy there to fill in if anything were to happen to Tua, if he was to get hurt. I know that they have been in talks about acquiring Deshaun Watson. I know that they have had rumors about moving Tua for another quarterback, and so much is smokescreen, so much is bullshit. It's hard to tell. I will say, having Brissett there as a guy who could be a low-end starter in the NFL is perfectly reasonable, and especially at this cap number. So good sign.
Right on. Outside of that, New England re-signed Cam Newton. So he is back in the New York groove, or I guess back in the New England groove, whatever. I think it was a little bit uncertain as to what approach New England was going to take this offseason, and they've chosen big money, which is an interesting look for New England since they've had no need to really drop big money in free agency in recent years because they've had the steady hand of Tom Brady as quarterback and have managed to do so much with his just low salary and whatnot. That seeing them spend a lot of money has been interesting. It makes last year's I think it puts last year's team in a little bit better perspective as to what they were trying to accomplish, just with a little bit of a reset. So that's nice. But anyway, they re-signed Cam Newton. It's an interesting contract. It is a $1.5 million base salary, $2 million signing bonus, a $1.3 million roster bonus, a $100,000 workout bonus, there's $500,000 in miscellaneous bonuses. Altogether, he carries a $5.4 million cap hit, and his dead cap is 5.5. But anyway. So all in all, a pretty nice looking contract an okay contract for Cam Newton. It is more than he got from them last year by some. Not much. Which
Comparatively to his $1 million contract, sure, it's like a 5 times increase if he, meets incentives or whatnot. But at the end of the day, he's taking this as a team friendly deal. It's him having another prove-it year because he didn't live up to last year. I know we'll talk about the Patriots more in depth when we talk about the rest of their signings, because boy, I mean, we could have spent a whole episode talking about it. But last offseason we were talking about how they didn't make any moves. They released a lot of players. They were basically setting themselves up for the quote unquote post Brady tank. This is what they were setting themselves up for. They were basically clearing all of their assets that they were, liable for, for this offseason, just clearing it out so that they would have all the space in the world to sign players and rebuild this team with all the fucking free agents they wanted to this year. Unfortunately, the cap situation being what it is, actually, well, mixed bag, because one, since they were planning to do this regardless, they had the cap space, so they have the availability to sign all these guys that are getting released because of the cap crunch, but they just don't have the same cap space they probably would have liked to have to go through this transition. So overall, it's all going according to plan, and knowing Bill Belichick, knowing the Patriots, knowing Robert Kraft, they're going to do it well.
Yeah, and knowing Robert Kraft in that, he's just going to say, Bill, do whatever the fuck you want. And that's what all owners should do. So there you go. I like this for Cam Newton. As we all know, I'm far from a Patriots fan, but I think you and I agree quick that Cam Newton got kind of the short end of the stick last year. Not the Patriots' fault, not Cam Newton's fault. It really just part of being an athlete and shit not breaking your way. So it's really nice to see him get another chance, especially on a team that is actually hopefully going to be good. Well, not hopefully for me, but hopefully for him, going to be good this year. So way to go, Cam. Outside of that, that just leaves the Jets. And the Jets have been very quiet with the quarterback situation. There's not much to say with it yet, since Sam Darnold's still on the team and they've made no acquisition outside of Sam Darnold. There's been, still mock drafts projecting them to take quarterbacks with the number 2 overall pick, but it's been weirdly quiet. It's been quiet in a way that leads me to believe that there is much conversation happening inside the Jets organization, because it's too quiet. But I've heard potential trade rumblings for Sam Darnold, but I've also heard that some insiders think he blows. And what is there to say about Sam Darnold? So the Jets have done nothing yet, but I think there's still a high likelihood of them doing something.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the rumors that nobody likes Sam Darnold, that he's a washed-up piece of trash. I've heard rumors that Texans were interested in a Deshaun Watson trade. I've heard rumors that Pete Carroll likes Sam Darnold and they'd be interested if Russell Wilson was available.
I've heard the Saints. I've heard the Steelers. I've heard a bunch of teams.
I've heard the Steelers. I've heard them wanting Justin Fields. I've heard them wanting Zach Wilson. I've heard them wanting to trade up for Trevor Lawrence. I've heard everything with the Jets, so I believe none of it, and I'm just going to wait to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. All right, so let's look at the AFC North, which really has had no change. So there's actually kind of nothing to say here. The only thing that's changed in any capacity with the quarterback situation in the AFC North is Ben Roethlisberger's contract extension or contract change, whatever you want to call it, which we talked about already.
Move on.
Cool. All right. AFC South so far, Tennessee hasn't done anything. Houston, we're still waiting. Again, that's the other part of whatever Deshaun Watson trade is going to potentially happen, is him leaving Houston. Jacksonville obviously is biding their time until they draft Trevor Lawrence. So there's something to say about them. And then the Colts. Oh wait, I had it written down. Who do they pick up?
Philip Rivers signed him 1 year deal.
Oh my God,
No,
hold on.
they signed like the
Oh
guy.
no, they traded for Carson Wentz. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I had it. I had a tab open with it because I knew I was going to forget that Carson Wentz existed, and then I closed it and I forgot Carson Wentz existed. So
We talked about it. Let's move on.
yeah, nothing interesting happening yet. In the AFC West, also nothing. Kansas City is not moving on from Patrick Mahomes anytime soon. The Raiders, there's been talk throughout the offseason about what Derek Carr's future in black and silver might look like, but all speculation, no actual real rumors yet.
He's going to get hit a lot this year, that's for sure.
That's fucking sure, man. As the Raiders decided our offensive line was too good and we must be worse. The Chargers are hanging on to Justin Herbert, and there's been no real talk of substance coming out of Denver, which I thought there might be, and there hasn't been. So nothing to really say there.
I've heard Denver is one of the two preferred landing spots for Deshaun Watson. I'm honestly blanking on who the other team was.
Dude, I've heard every team, so I don't buy anything.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where I'm not going to believe anything until it happens.
No, and the thing that really makes it tough, which if you're a fan of any sport, you know, is that every side will leak rumors to teams to, Jimmy with the market value or the perception of a player, so Deshaun Watson's team could be running out rumors that he wants to go to Denver just to make the Jets pay more or whatever.
The 49ers were the other team that he supposedly is interested in.
Sure.
And that he doesn't want to play in New York and he doesn't want to play in Miami. So who the fuck knows? Doesn't matter till it matters. Nobody knows anything. Let's move on.
Yeah, nobody knows. NFC East, the Giants are staying pat with Daniel Jones. The Cowboys are sticking with Dak Prescott. The only changes it looks like we're going to have here in all likelihood is the Eagles, who are really just taking fucking what's his name? God damn it.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts and elevating him to starter. And then the Washington team that they should do something was, I think, our synopsis of them when we talked last. And their solution to that was to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 1-year deal to the tune of $10 million. That is 39-year-old quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. And let's take a look at how that $10 million breaks down. It's a $3 million base salary, $6 million signing bonus, and a just under $1 million roster bonus. That's how that breaks down. And rolling with, I guess, the quarterback room of him and Taylor Heineke and thinking that's okay. So
did they re-sign Brandon Allen?
Hold on.
Brandon Allen. Is Google even going to know who that guy is?
No one knows who that is.
Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen is on the Bengals.
Who the fuck am I thinking of? Who's the guy that used to play for Texas A&M?
Yeah, Brandon Allen went to Arkansas, apparently, for his college.
He was on the Panthers, traded him to Washington. Thought his last name was Allen.
Nobody knows who Corwin's
the
thinking
troubles
of.
I've seen. I'll be able to find it. I don't want it to be so much dead air. I don't really want to sit around. Blah, 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 blah. Kyle Allen.
Oh.
Kyle Allen, still on the team. Cool. We did it, Corwin. You saved the town.
Yay! I'm not sure I give a shit about the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is on his ninth team or with Washington. They were a 7-9 team last season, and that might very well be their record next season, plus or minus a win and a half. This is it's a signing they probably should have made, but I'm not sure it moves the needle for me.
I would only think this is a fair trade or a fair signing if it was planned for them to trade up and draft a QB.
Oh, that's
The
interesting.
defense that they have now is fucking awesome. It's going to be a top 5 defense next year.
Yeah, it's shipping up real quick.
Shit. Spoiler alert for one of my bold predictions this year that I'll probably forget by the time I write these. Washington finishes with a top 5 defense. If they have a nice rookie quarterback, having Ryan Fitzpatrick there is kind of like that mentor, that Josh McCown type role, a guy who can start for you and perform well at a small sample size. Sure, great signing, great guy to have there. If you want him to be your starter for 16 games with the room of Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen, he's going to perform too well for you to tank in the way the Jets and the Jags did this year. Your defense is going to be too good to allow that to happen, but he's not good enough to take you to the top of the NFC East. Like, he's not good enough to beat the Cowboys. He's not good enough to beat. Okay, he's probably good enough to beat the Eagles and the Giants if they don't seriously improve from last year, but it's not a guy who's going to take you anywhere towards contention. So if this is the end of their quarterback signings this year, I'll be disappointed, but I have to expect that they won't.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what Washington's long-term view of their team is, and I think part of that might be because it seems as though they're in such a weird position with such a great defense and such a shockingly mediocre to bad offense, and the fact that the rest of the division is garbage until the Cowboys prove otherwise, which I'm almost certain they will next season. But still, I mean, this might just be them biding time to see how their team progresses next season before they make a bigger splash at quarterback next offseason, which I think would be fair to do. I guess. I mean, at the same time, you could just make a splash now and decide to be better. But hey, what do I know? Yeah. All right. Well, that's Washington for you. They
What do they
play
pick this
football.
year? They pick. Reading is hard. 19.
Oof. Oh, because they made the playoffs and won their division. That's right. That's disgusting.
That's really ugly. I was going to say, man, it's hard for them to do better next year with the defense they have in Ryan Fitzpatrick than they did this year. But no, they're not. They're not winning the division unless fucking miracles happen and Dak Prescott gets hurt again. But that'll be a rough one.
Yeah.
You gotta hope they do worse next year for QB because yikes.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look here at the NFC North. We have the Green Bay Packers who ain't doing shit, the Minnesota Vikings who ain't doing shit, the Detroit Lions who have already made their trade for Jared Goff, moving on from Matt Stafford, giving him a chance to be on a team that has a shot at being successful. And the Bears. And the Bears. Who the fuck knows what the fuck they're doing? So
starting, Andy, I'll let you go. You give us the summary.
Okay. Oh, it hurts. So Mitch Trubisky's time in Chicago is over. They chose not to take on his 5th-year option. So his contract's done. He's not in Chicago anymore, unless they re-sign him, which why? So what do they do to solve this crisis? Well, they did the only thing that a rational team would do, and they signed Andy Dalton. And so first off, 10-year deal, $3 million base salary, $7 million signing bonus, $10 million cap hit. It's a very much easier contract than some of the other ones we talked about. And if you want to talk value, sure, it's Andy Dalton. He's barely worth it, but I guess he is a capable starter.
Honestly, if you ask me if I'd rather have Andy Dalton at 10 million or Jacoby Brissett at 5, I would take Jacoby Brissett 2 hands down. If you switch those numbers, maybe I go Dalton. Maybe.
And the thing that makes this so fucking disgusting is you think about how Ryan Pace and what's their fucking coach's name again? Matt Nagy's. The quarterbacks that they've chosen to have under their tenure. It started with what fucking giraffe neck dude, Mike Glennon, Mike Lennon, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Andy Dalton. That's a ridiculous set of quarterbacks. That's a fucking ridiculous set of quarterbacks.
Dude, Super Bowl MVP and a Pro Bowler in Mitch Trubisky. Hell yeah, dude. Those are great QBs.
I mean, it's fucking nuts, man. And it's like, look, at any given time, do I understand the need to like take a flyer on a guy to like have him be a backup? Sure. But they keep throwing their fucking cart behind these goddamn mediocre dudes. They're like oh my god. It's like they picked out they are finding like the lowest common denominator of quarterback and giving that guy the starting role. Mitch Trubisky was a stretch when it happened.
They haven't signed Paxton Lynch yet.
Oh my god.
Don't disparage them.
They're gonna trade for like Drew Lock one day.
Honestly, Drew Lock compared to these other quarterbacks is fucking Peyton Manning. Like,
Drew Lock might because Drew Lock actually might have promise. I mean, Mitch Trubisky was a suspect draft pick when it happened. The Mike Lennon signing was hilarious at the time. Nick Foles, everyone knew was a flash in the pan in terms of his playoff run. And because every good game he's ever had in his life had been flash in the panish, never that he'd been bad, just that he'd never been phenomenal. And Andy Dalton is literally considered the lowest starting line, the lowest line for you to have to cross to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's a ridiculous set of quarterbacks. What are the eyes? Tell me the eyes?
Eagles just released defensive tackle Malik Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh shit! Okay, wow.
Cap casualties.
Cap casualties. Now, apparently, Chicago did make a serious run at Russell Wilson before immediately stopping. And again, this is, of course, still going to be speculation. This could very well be rumored by the Seahawks just to increase Russell Wilson's value. But we're going to talk about it anyway. So apparently, Chicago made an offer to the Seahawks to the tune of 3 first-round picks, Khalil Mack, and Akeem Hicks. And the Seahawks said no.
Who are the starters again? Because Akeem Hicks.
Khalil Mack. And Akeem Hicks.
And the Seahawks said no?
And the Seahawks said no.
I don't know. I don't trust that rumor.
And that's the part that I find so suspect on it, is that here's a guy who, I mean, it's been pretty public he's not happy with you, Seattle. You've made a series of pretty questionable decisions, and you're probably bad at a true talent level. You haven't had success in the playoffs in years. You're getting offered 3 additional first-round picks after you traded away 2 first-round picks to the Jets for a player you should not have given 2 first-round picks for. And you have the possibility of rebuilding the defense first, which is kind of how Seattle got good in the first place, and you're not going to take it because Russell Wilson's an untouchable. And don't get me wrong, I totally get like the sentimental value and the fact that Russell Wilson is a very good quarterback. What's a better trade? What better trade are you getting from that? 9 first-round picks? Where are you setting the bar?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I saw the 3 first-round picks, a third, and 2 starters. I kind of assumed the starters were going to be like maybe like Eddie Jackson and some offensive somebody, nobody major, but okay, a good defensive player and somebody on offense, whoever, maybe an offensive lineman, who knows. I didn't think it was going to be worth it. Khalil Mack, I mean, on one hand, if you're trading Russell Wilson, you're giving up on your contention right now. Like, you're not trying to build a team to compete. Khalil Mack doesn't really fit that plan, even though he's a great player. Both him and Akeem Hicks are both Pro Bowl, All-Pro, possibilities. They're not going to help your team in 4 years. So I get why they wouldn't necessarily be the best options, but at the same time, fucking turn around and trade those 2 immediately and get another 2 first-round picks, 2 firsts, and some added whatever you get for them. It doesn't matter. Like, you can, if you leave this trade with a total of, like, let's just throw out 5 first-round picks total, 3 from the Bears, 2
Two from these
for
trades.
whoever,
Yeah.
for whatever, just totaling in value. Yeah, 5 first-round picks for Russell Wilson? Sure. Go build yourself a team, a complete team with that. 2 first-round picks, or 3 first-round picks next year, 3 first-round picks in 2 years, and then another 2 the year after that. That's how you build a serious team quickly. Look at the Dolphins. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They have an offense with key pieces. They're building their team to compete soon. And they did it with having a ton of draft picks just these past 2 years. By year 3, year 4, they're going to have themselves a team that can compete in the AFC East, compete and contend in the playoffs if things, continue going the way they're going. 5 first-round picks for Russell Wilson. You're not going to get a quarterback like Russell Wilson with any of those picks. You're not. I mean, at the end of the day, Russell Wilson is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, all-time player. You're not, with reasonable expectations, going to get a player like him with those picks. But you're going to be able to get a quarterback at some point with them. You're going to be able to use them to get yourself a good quarterback, and you'll still have guys to build the rest of your team. You're really not looking to be able to contend with him right now anymore. The rest of the roster just isn't there. I don't know.
Well, it's mind-bendingly stupid. Especially for me, because if the Bears were seriously about moving that value, that sheer quantity of players and draft capital, surely they could have acquired someone else from another team. I'm not quite sure who necessarily is available, but I mean, the gap between Russell Wilson and Andy fucking Dalton is pretty huge. And somewhere in the middle must be a menu of starters that they could have gone out and acquired with what they were willing to part with. And I understand that there's a value aspect to it, but because I don't know where this leaves the Bears. That's the part I don't get. Either you're going to make a serious push at contending today, which seems to be what they think their team is a quarterback away from, which, okay, you guys were 8-8 with Trubisky and what's his face. So sure, maybe you are, or you're the team for tomorrow. And I don't know where they think they are. And I'm not sure. Hold on 1 second. I want to take a look.
Seattle just signed Gerald Everett.
I don't know who that is.
Tight end from the Rams.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess it's tough because the fucking market's shit.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where it's like, all right, 3 first-round picks, 2 defensive line starters for Russell Wilson. Okay, that's probably worth it for the Bears. The only other QB of note that's even remotely available is, Deshaun Watson, who is probably going to command even more, or Sam Darnold, who the jury's still out whether or not he's A, available, and B, what his ballpark cost even is, because we have no idea right now. And
Fucking
Sam
ham
Darnold's
sandwich.
also not anywhere close to the level of Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, but we know that the cost wouldn't be anywhere near that. But, you're getting a guy like Andy Dalton, who the potential is severely capped compared to what Sam Darnold may be able to grow into. But the floor for Sam Darnold and the floor for Andy Dalton's probably got a higher floor by a little bit. But if we're talking absolute floor and what they could do in a new system where, listen, I know Matt Nagy was the guy for Kansas City for a couple years, offensively, but that's Andy Reid's ballpark. That's not Matt Nagy doing all that. That's Matt Nagy learning from Andy Reid. working alongside Andy Reid. You don't know if that system is even, a good environment for these guys to come into, whether or not it's something that would be building a positive environment. I mean, look at the last couple of years. Granted, the guys there haven't exactly been all-stars, but we don't know. And it's hard to just say any one of those guys can go in there, and not having to give anything up for Andy Dalton and getting him on a relatively, low cost. It speaks for something. They could have done worse than Andy Dalton. That's all I'm saying.
I do think you're right. I'm just trying to figure out where the Bears feel as though they're positioned, because this might be the beginning of their tank.
So Ryan Pace right now and Matt Nagy are both just scrambling with their buckets, trying to dump out water to keep that ship from sinking. And listen, if they don't perform this year, they're gone. Like, I just do not understand how they're still there this year, and they definitely won't be if this continues. So I don't think either one of those guys are going to be sticking around long enough to see through a tank. If they are completely rebuilding and Bears ownership decides, hey, this team, we're not going to be able to get there built the way we are, unless they are just, deaf, dumb, and blind and decide to keep, knocking away at it year by year and just treading water, doing nothing. They're going to have to tear down and rebuild. And when they do, coaching staff, front office, they're getting cleaned out. So if this is their desperation play of Andy Dalton, fuck.
Well, that's what also makes it interesting is like, and granted, I was gonna say, maybe what if they made a push for Matt Stafford before he got traded to Los Angeles? But I'm sure Stafford has stipulations about where he'd want to go. Probably wouldn't have picked the powerhouse, dynamic, winning duo of Pace and Nagy up in the Windy City. So
also probably wouldn't have wanted to stay in that division.
That's another point. Log jammed.
But yeah, I think they're right there with Washington, where I'll be disappointed if this is their only move. Unlike Washington, I wouldn't be surprised because Ryan Pace has really tanked his reputation with me these last couple of years. But yeah, it's not exciting.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll call it that for Chicago. It'll be interesting to see if Russell Wilson gets moved, because it seems to be a pretty strong voice in the chorus of voices saying he won't get moved. But again, we shall see. It'll be interesting to see if Deshaun Watson gets moved, which I think is still the more likely option between the two of them, what that will look like in comparison to this. And I think that might help inform us if this is real or not. Because if Deshaun Watson gets traded and it's this or less, then this is bullshit. So we'll see. Moving on to the NFC South, New Orleans, we talked about. Tampa Bay, we talked about. Carolina has made no moves, and Atlanta has made no moves. I'm not sure there's anything to really say about this division, quarterback-wise.
I fully expect Atlanta to draft a QB.
Yeah.
They restructured Matt Ryan's contract. That's, nothing for, their plans at quarterback. That speaks nothing towards that, but I do expect them to do that.
Yeah,
picking fourth overall with a 37-year-old Matt Ryan. Yeah, you draft a new guy.
All right, and that brings us to the NFC West, which houses the Seahawks that we just spent some decent time talking about. The Rams, who've already made a trade, a move at quarterback, moving on from Jared Goff in favor of Matt Stafford. The Arizona Cardinals, who are locked in with Kyler Murray. And the San Francisco 49ers, who have been the subject of rumor in terms of some of the trades for some players that had been mentioned previously. Most notably Deshaun Watson, again, Corwin alluded to. But I'm not sure how likely any of it is. I think it might just be a little bit of talk, since there's such a well-constructed team that may or may not be being held back by their quarterback. Depending on, yeah, well, uh, but I'm not convinced that they're truly in the market. Obviously, I'm not saying that they would, if the Texans come up to them and said, Niners, can you please take Deshaun Watson? We'll give him to you for a 3rd round pick. The Niners would say, oh no, we're good. We have Jimmy Garoppolo. But at the same time,
Only
I
the
don't.
Texans would be that stupid to turn down a deal like that.
Oh no, the Texans, they just cut him. That's what they do with their good players before trading them, right? They just cut them, right?
Could you imagine? Could you
Guys,
imagine the mob marching down whatever the main street in Houston is if the year after, a year and like a day after the anniversary of trading Hopkins for a 2nd round pick, they trade Deshaun Watson for a 3rd. The same offseason they released JJ Watt. People would be killed. Steve McNair would be killed. Whatever that Easterby guy, Jack Easterby, he would be lynched. He would be straight up lynched in Houston.
yeah. Well, it's a hot mess of a front office that has no real upside. But I don't know. What's your
front office?
They have an office.
It's in the front of the building.
Yeah.
They didn't actually know what that meant when people were saying, "Oh, who's your front office going to be? Who's your front office going to be?" It's like, I mean, there's a conference room. We can throw anybody in there. Oh, I hate how close to accurate that may be.
Oh yeah.
What was your question?
What's your impression of I mean, do you think the Niners are really positioned to make a move outside of Jimmy G? You do. All right. Tell me what and why.
My prediction, my bold prediction before we do bold predictions, because it will be over before we do bold predictions. I think the Niners trade up for Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is the clear number 4 out of the top 4 guys. I think after Trevor goes 1, Wilson and Fields go at 2 and 4. If nobody trades with the Dolphins at 3, I think offensive tackle at 5, and then I think 6 and later. I think 6 is the Eagles. I could see the Eagles trading back. I could see the Lions trading back. I think the 49ers move up and take Trey Lance.
Okay.
Prediction.
I could buy it. I mean, they're gonna have to consider something in a post Jimmy G society, which is rapidly approaching, since I believe this is the last year of his contract.
Yeah, I don't know.
Next
even
year
if
is
even if it's
2022.
not, that they're not sticking with them, they need to find a solution now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know me, all faith towards the mighty Kyle Shanahan. I have full faith
Praise
on
be
him
unto him.
getting whatever they got available to him and running the show next year in the NFC West.
Yeah.
Directions.
So the only change that looks like it will be immediate at any point, at any rate, pre-draft, I guess we could say, is potentially the Seahawks, but even that seems very speculative at this point. So it seems as though the NFC West is kind of locked in.
Well, Kyler Murray is going to have himself a hell of a year next year. That'll be fun.
Yeah,
got himself. They upgraded from like the 66th ranked center to Rodney Hudson, who's like the best pass protecting center ever. Not ever, but you know what I mean. Lately, I think he's given up like
not ever lately.
This month,
last year.
No, since 2015, he's played like several thousand snaps. I wish I had these numbers in front of me, but since 2015, he's given up 3 sacks.
Wow.
3 in 5 seasons. That's fucking insanity. And they traded him for like a 3rd round pick.
Oh, well, I mean, what do you expect? I guess that we could transition this right into our greater discussion of moves and happenings that have gone down.
Do we have any divisions left? Are we done?
No, that was it. That was it for the divisions.
Nice, convenient.
So is there any place you'd like to start as we look through the tracker, or as we look at?
Might as well start with the Cardinals because we're still there. We're still talking about them.
All right. So let's look at some of the free agents the Cardinals have acquired.
They acquired J.J. Watt, who we talked about. We won't need to go into that any further. They signed A.J. Green today to a 1-year, $8 million contract, which, all things considered, A.J. Green coming off of...
No, A.J. Green had a $6 million contract. Hassan Reddick had an $8 million contract.
Then NBC is stupid because I'm staring at their blurb that says 1-year, $8 million contract.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. Let me open up his page. Oh, you know what? It might be that Spot Check hasn't fully updated. So I'll take NBC's word at it.
Okay. Either way, I think having him with Christian Kirk, having him with Nick Hopkins, even the possibility of bringing back Larry Fitzgerald, that's a loaded weapon room. Dan Arnold's there, who's the mailman because he always delivers, is a great set of supporting pieces for Kyler Murray. Who knows what's going to happen with their running back, but I think Chase Edmonds is still going to be a great option there. I think he could definitely be maybe not a workhorse because we've never quite seen that load from him, but definitely be a premier, 1A kind of guy. Plus this trade for Rodney Hudson is seriously going to improve his protection, which, with his play style is going to help. It's not necessarily needed, but God, I mean, how many times have we talked about how important it is to build that, foundational piece of offensive line? So I am fucking all for it. It should be a good year for Kyler.
Yeah, for that team as a whole. I mean, they're really, they went from being a non-issue to positioning themselves very well for a breakout season super quickly. What?
My computer did that because you're like, you search for something that didn't exist.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
Instead of putting it through my headphones like a normal fucking computer would, it just blasted it through the speakers.
Hey, don't you want to hear this? We thought you wanted to hear some sounds.
Hey, we know you're wearing headphones, but we want to make sure everyone in the room knows you fuck something up when typing.
Well, and that's so fucking stupid because it's like, imagine like you're listening to something really loud and you don't hear the computer sound. The computer's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's like, I am wearing the headphones that are in you. How don't you know? Anyway. Yeah.
How can we be so deep into technology? Like, how can we be so advanced in technology and still just fuck this shit up?
I feel that way every time I look down at the floor right next to where I'm sitting right now, as it has 9,000 cables on it. And I can't help think to myself, why do I have so many fucking cables? Why do I need all these goddamn cables?
Because you have poor cable management.
No, it's because my pedal board's right next to me too. And it's like, I am waiting for the day that guitar pedal companies come to the realization that what they should do is make them connectable like Legos so that I don't have to have so many fucking cables. I have 90 fucking cables next to me because you got to plug them into one. So that's the in, and then you got to plug them to the out. And so if you have, like 5 pedals, you've got like 90 cables. It's ridiculous. Make them connect. I don't know how that would work. No one does, but make them connect so that like little Lego pieces. So I don't have to deal with this bullshit. And it's a mess. It's a mess. And then 25% of the surface area on my pedal board is just dedicated to space in between the pedals to fit the cables. And it makes no fucking sense. All right, that's my rant. We're moving on.
If I had to choose between listening to that and getting to eat dinner 37 seconds sooner, I want my dinner 37 seconds sooner.
You ain't getting it, bitch.
No, I'm not.
All right. Do you want to still approach this divisionally, or do you want to look at some of the bigger names that got that were on the move and talk about them that way?
Let's talk about the bigger names, just because there's a whole lot of shit out there that we're gonna get dragged down by.
I think that's probably the right move. So the biggest, we'll go by dollar value then. The biggest dollar value contract that got signed this offseason so far just happened this morning, I think, right around midnight. Trent Williams re-signing with San Francisco, the left tackle, age 33, got a 6-year, $138 $138,060,000 contract. It's a hilariously specific number. I need above
I
38
need
million.
$10,000 a year to stock my vending machines.
Yeah, so there's no good breakdown as to where that $10,000 a year comes from yet, because Spotrac doesn't have the details yet. But anyway, Trent Williams, $138 million for 6 years. Corwin, what is your thoughts?
On one hand, if there's any tackle right now in free agency or getting an extension who would be worthy of being the highest paid offensive lineman in the history of the NFL, it'd be Trent Williams. Signing a 33-year-old to a 6-year contract scares the fucking shit out of me. Well, it would if I was a 49ers fan. That being said, I don't think this will be all of that bad of a contract. By the time he's that age, you look at a guy like Dwayne Brown, who's, I don't know if you could look it up real quick. I think he's like 38, 39, and he's still playing at a high level. It was a top 10 offensive tackle this year by PFF. I think he was like number 8 or whatever. So I think locking him up, making him happy, and anchoring your offensive line and anchoring both your bookends for the next several years is great plan.
Dwayne Brown is 35.
Okay, that might get ugly. Shit. Still, 35, that's pretty old. So it's 33. 39 is real old.
Yeah, 35. He's about, actually, this is the final year of his contract.
You know how old Ryan Fitzpatrick is? And just like, wow, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's so old. I can't believe he's still playing. He's lucky he's a quarterback and can avoid getting major hits or, doesn't need to be super uber athletic or anything. And then just playing left tackle against the TJ Watts, the Myles Garrett's of the, it's holy shit. Imagine Drew Brees or Ben Roethlisberger's that age. Imagine him comparatively going up against those kind of guys. It's just scary.
Yeah, it is. The age thing is horrifying. It gets the difference between 32 and 35 is fucking colossal when it comes to athletes' performance. So it'll be interesting. But at the same time, Trent Williams is a phenomenal left tackle, and you do what you got to do, to make that man happy and keep him on your team. So as we've seen the past year, especially in the NFL, money ain't no thing, and and the cap space is imaginary. So yeah,
it's less imaginary this year, but based off of all this fucking shit going on, it's fucking imaginary. Yeah, it's still imaginary, but it's like dragons. Dragons might have been a thing. I'm 99% certain they're not real, but
it's like
Game
dragons in that it's
real.
like the flying dragons aren't real, but the Komodo dragons hanging out.
It's true. Where did they come from? They have to be from real dragons. Otherwise,
chickens.
I wouldn't call
it's
them
all
that.
Chickens. Anyway.
I think 9,000 years ago, dragons split as a species into dragonflies and Komodo dragons. Komodo dragons got all the scales and lizard dragon looking shit, and dragonflies got the wings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
From that, let's pivot on to Bud Dupree. Let's make you sad. Bud Dupree left the Steelers, signing the second biggest contract that's been awarded thus far this offseason to the tune of $82.5 million on a 5-year deal to be the outside linebacker of the Tennessee Titans. Corwin, tell me about your pain.
I'm not that hurt because I knew it was coming.
I'm not that hurt. It's okay.
There's so many allergies in this hotel right now. I'm happy he got a lot of money. I think he is a good compliment to a guy like Harold Landry. I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be anything spectacular. I don't see him being an all-pro kind of guy. I see him being one of those Pro Bowl alternate caliber players still. I just hope he can come back healthy and perform. But yeah. Good deal overall. I like it for both sides.
The ultimate The most reassuring part about seeing one of the favorite players from your team go to a different team is that he makes a fuck ton of money. It
Yeah.
genuinely it makes it so much easier to take because on the one hand, on the one side of it, you could go, my team couldn't afford it. Finally died. And then on the other side of it, you can also say, well, I'm happy for him. He got all the money. Like, it would suck to see a player you really like leave on a very team friendly deal, and it's like, what, we couldn't do that. Um,
Mike
seeing a
Tony.
player, yeah, seeing a player you like leave for like a fuck ton of money is actually a lot easier to stomach. So let's talk about the next player, Joe Thuney. He is heading from New England to Kansas City on a 5-year, $80 million deal to play guard for the Chiefs. Corwin, what do you think about one of the hottest names in the offensive line game this offseason?
Might as well talk about both their guard signings. They
Yeah,
signed
fair enough.
Kyle Long for a 1-year, $5 million deal as well. They have a center that is going to stick around, Austin Reeder, I believe. They have two guards to contend with. Laurie Tardif. I honestly don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, and I never will. But he'll be coming back after opting out this year. So they have three guys who can play well. Obviously that's the Chiefs' biggest needs. I thought they were going to go heavier into tackles after they cut fucking Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, which blows my fucking mind that they move on from both of them. Honestly, them moving on from Mitchell Schwartz blows my fucking mind. Dude won, was first team All Pro like each of the last 3 seasons when he was healthy. That's just insanity. But still, regardless, I like that they're working on their line and putting this money towards it. I think Joe Thuney's going to be a good fit. I love the Kyle Long signing. Joe Thuney's probably a little overpaid. Kyle Long is definitely underpaid here, so it all evens out in the end. So I'm glad they're working hard towards protecting Pat Mahomes after seeing what happened in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, if there was anything that was left exceedingly obvious from that game and really that entire playoff run, was that Pat Mahomes is left to be very vulnerable as a result of how shit that offensive line is, and that can only carry you so far. It just so happens to carry them to the Super Bowl, but still came up short in the big game as a result of poor construction with the offensive line. So.
I just got a notification that the Bucks are bringing back Ryan Suckup on a 3-year, $12 million deal. On one hand, sure, I don't care all that much, but $4 million a year for a kicker is okay. It's not ideal, but especially not when he's not an all-star kicker. It's just imagine paying a kicker the same amount as the Patriots are paying their quarterback.
I literally can't.
I don't like that a lot.
No.
Either way, let's move on.
Yeah. All right. That brings us to Shaquille Barrett re-signing with Tampa Bay to the tune of a 4-year, $68 million contract. 29. He's young. Might get 33. Might be a little bit old for a second contract, but we'll see. What do you think about Barrett staying in Tampa Bay?
Bullshit ass team friendly deal. Fucking Buccaneers trying to get Tom Brady number 7. Fucking assholes. Or he did get 7. That was this year. Oh my god, Tom Brady has so many fucking rings. Great team deal. Definitely for significantly less than what he would have gotten on the market. So good on the Bucks. Good on Shaq Barrett for putting his priorities in order all around. It's just, I'm disappointed just because it's Tom Brady's team.
Yeah, that kind of puts a damper on things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. If it was the Bucks with Jameis Winston, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're going to be able to build a team and compete. But it's not Brady, so I fucking hate them.
Yep, I know the feeling. But yeah, like you said, good on Shaquille Barrett for having his priorities however he has them and getting to, I assume, stay with where he wants to stay, even though it's at a lower total value. But good for him. Corey Lindsley. Sorry, Corey. Corey Lindsley is going to be moving on from the center of Green Bay to becoming the center for the Los Angeles Chargers. 5-year, $62.5 million contract. What do you think?
Good signing. Protect Justin Herbert. Good player. Yep.
There you go. It'll be interesting to see if Green Bay has any backup plan. But sure thing. Trey Hendrickson, defensive end from New Orleans, heading to Cincinnati in a 4-year, $60 million deal. What make you of this?
I think it's an overpay, but at the same time, the Bengals had a lot of needs. Nobody wanted to sign with them, and they had to overpay to get guys to go there. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I would assume this is the Carl Lawson replacement.
Yeah.
And he got the same AAV as Carl Lawson. And that means that either they just didn't reach out fast enough and the Jets scooped Carl Lawson up super quick, or Carl Lawson was like, fuck you guys.
Which is pretty hard to do when he plays for your team.
Which means that Carl Lawson probably went, you guys fucking suck. I'm so fucking done here. I'm gone. I'm going to go play.
Almost.
You know how bad of an organization you have to be for someone to say, I'm going to play with the fucking Jets? I'm a Jets fan.
It's not the Jets. It's Robert Saleh. He wanted to go play for Robert Saleh. I guarantee
I'm sorry. I forgot we had a competent coach for a second.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, I forgot. Like, there's actually stuff bringing people into New York.
Yeah, I genuinely forgot there was like a reason someone might want to be here. So yeah, good point.
Oh hey, that Joey Bosa guy, he was pretty good. Oh shit, fucking D Ford, he was pretty good. Oh, Chris Jones, he was pretty good. Or no, Chris Grown. Who'd they trade? Doesn't matter. I forget who they sent back. It doesn't matter. Either way, good shit. Carl Lawson trade or signing, good shit. I'm all about that.
Which we will get to very soon. But in between that, we have pair.
We just talked about it.
All right. Well, I'm happy about it. Then that's all I have to say. I like the fact that the Jets actually have a guy who can pass rush.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Is it legal? But yeah. So the Carl Lawson deal, by the way, 3-year, $45 million. So like I said, the Trey Hendrickson deal, 4-year, $60 million, both $15 million per season. Anyway, we now have a pair of the. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about all the New England contracts, because as long as we're already going to be talking about like 2 to 3 back-to-back, might as well just do them all, I guess, since they did so fucking many.
Before we do that, is there any like 1 or 2 singular trades or signings beyond this? Because I feel like we're just going to need to end on the Patriots.
You know what? That's a good point, and I already updated the sheet I was looking at, so let me update it back and and see if there was anything else I really care. Let's do some Jet stuff. The Jets signed Corey Davis. Do you give a shit?
No.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Pete texted me very excited for me that the Jets signed Corey Davis, and I'm like, why am I supposed to be excited about us? I mean, like, I'm not upset about us signing Corey Davis. Like, we need wide people to play wide receiver, and Corey Davis certainly plays wide receiver, but I'm not excited about Corey Davis.
I almost texted you saying, "Oh my God, the Jets just got the 5th overall pick," and then waiting for you to go crazy and be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'd be like, "Yeah, from like 3 years ago or 4 years ago now, they signed Corey Davis," and then for you to get really sad and disappointed. But I was like, "No, you're a Jets fan. You get enough of that."
Yeah, it all hurts, and I usually want to die. How about Shaquille Griffin going to Jacksonville?
They overpaid, but they needed a corner. He's a good one, and boy, do they have the money to spend. So I can't complain.
Yeah, it seems to make sense.
Fair signing.
Speaking of Jacksonville, Rayshawn Jenkins heading to Jacksonville.
Meh.
Okay. What about Yannick Ngakoue going to Vegas?
I like it. It's,
weird.
It's weird because they have Max Crosby, who had a lot of promise as a rookie. They had Clellan Ferrell, who was like the 3rd overall pick, who's just been bad. So it's weird to have him go there, but at the same time, Yannick Ngakoue is a great pass rusher, and I'm sure he's going to be very good in Las Vegas. It's just, not the position I thought they'd be going after.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. Marvin Jones also went to Jacksonville, which I think is fun, but it doesn't really mean anything. Rob Gronkowski re-signed with Tampa Bay for a 1-year, $8 million contract, which is also interesting. I'm not sure I have anything to say, but it's interesting.
He's going to sign as long as Tom Brady's there.
I think
That's
so.
just the way it goes. Yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders signed with Buffalo, which makes me sad because now I can't root for Emmanuel Sanders, and I love rooting for Emmanuel Sanders. He's such a fun dude, but oh well. Carlos Hyde signed a deal with Jacksonville. I totally missed that. That's kind of funny.
It's like the least important thing in the world. Like I saw someone tweet about it and be like, "Oh wow, sync James Robinson." Like James Robinson, they're replacing him, and it's like, dude, have you watched Carlos Hyde play football in the past 4 years?
Yeah. John Brown signed a 1-year deal with Las Vegas, which is interesting-ish. Richie Incognito is back with Vegas? I didn't realize that. Okay.
He signed like half an hour ago.
Oh, well, that makes sense as to why I'm confused about it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mark Ingram signed with Houston. I would have assumed he would have retired, but okay. Yeah, I got nothing.
You know what? My favorite signing so far is John Ross going to the Giants for $2.5 million on a 1-year deal. I just think that's a crazy good, no risk, super reward if it works out kind of deal that the Giants need. I'm a huge fan of that one.
The Giants need a new GM. That's what they need.
Giants need a lot of things. They need,
which is why it starts at GM. They gotta move the fuck on.
Yeah.
It's only getting worse as, we can sit here and comment about like how impactful is having Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback for the Washington football team. But at the same time, you can at least sit there and say, hey, they're doing like something relatively meaningful to try to be somewhat better. And the Giants are just like, well, we have both thumbs up our butt. We don't know what to do. And it's like, oh, gee, thanks, boys in blue. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about. Let's talk about the Patriots. So they've done a lot. It's been a topic that we started the show off a little bit with and has been discussed on Twitter as well as the greater football media. So I want to list off their signings, and then you can tell me what you think about them just to move it a little bit quicker. They signed Matt Judon, outside linebacker, 4-year, $54.5 million contract. They signed Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, both tight ends, 26 and 27 respectively. Jonnu Smith on a 4-year, $50 million contract, and Hunter Henry a 3-year, $37.5 million contract, matching AAVs at 12.5. They signed Jalen Mills, safety, coming out of Philly, 4-year, $24 million contract. Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, coming out of Las Vegas, 2-year, $22 million contract. Davon Godchaux, a defensive tackle out of Miami, to a 2-year, $15 million contract. Kendrick Bourne.
Devin?
Davon? Wow.
I spelled it with an E. Maybe I'm wrong. I will fully concede. I can no longer confidently say his name is Devin.
Sure.
Davin.
Okay, Davin Godchaux. I'm surprised I got corrected on the first name, not the last name, because I was a total guess.
No, Godchaux's correct.
Yeah. Jeez. All right.
I feel bad for bringing it up.
Oh, who cares? Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver, San Fran, out of San Fran, 3-year, $15 million contract. Adam Butler, defensive tackle. Oh, no, sorry. He's someone who left New England, so ignore Adam Butler. Cody Davis, free safety, got re-signed, so that's not a huge deal because he was on the team last season. And Ted Karras, center from Miami, 1-year, $4 million contract. So that is the totality of their signings. Names, once again, Matt Judon, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Jalen Mills, Nelson Aguilar, Davin Godchaux, Kendrick Bourne, Cody Davis, and Ted Karras all signed within the first 3 days of free agency opening up. So Corbin, tell me about this new Patriots roster we're looking at.
So all told, that entire thing put together, I give it a B plus, A minus, B plus, depending on how it ends up. Excuse me, I'm like trying to hold down a burp or a yawn or something. I don't know.
Something's coming out. I can't stop it.
Something's coming out. So currently, or leading into today, the Patriots had given out the second most guaranteed money in a free agency period in NFL history. Gave out the second most guaranteed money ever. This was all before free agency even officially started.
The Patriots taking advantage of the tampering period? What? No!
But seriously, like, this is the most Bill Belichick, like, just grouping of signings ever. Just absolutely dominates the defensive side of the ball. Just every one of the defensive signings just is fantastic. I'm a fan of all of them. Jalen Mills, super versatile. Godchaux was, great in his role in Miami and will be in the New England. Judon signs to a very fair contract to be a good, mean pass rusher for them. And Bill signs 2 tight ends, which is just the most Bill Belichick thing ever, after drafting 2 tight ends in the 3rd round last year, because of course, both of them are super versatile. Both can catch the ball, both can block, both can move downfield. It's going to be super exciting to see him work with that, 12 and 22 personnel again. But then it just goes to show that Bill Belichick is just so fucking bad at evaluating wide receivers. It just blows me away that he'd spend like 15 million total, 11 and 5, so 16 on Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Agholor. It's just
more, 37, because Agholor got 22 million and Bourne got 15 on his own.
Well, per year.
Oh, per year. 11 million then. Sorry, 16 million then, because Agholor is 11 million AAV and Bourne is 5. So 16 million. Yep. There we go.
I would much rather spend the money on one $16 million per year wide receiver like a Juju Smith-Schuster or a Kenny Galladay, where you can have a number 1 dominant wide receiver. You could have N'Keal Harry as your number 2. See if he can continue developing. You have some other, depth players at wide receiver. You have a 90-year-old Julian Edelman who's still kicking, and you're going to have your 2 tight end, which is, in all honesty, going to be the focal point of your offense. Get a number 1 guy. Don't get 2 guys that are burners that, they'll take the tops off the defense. They'll, do some things, but they're not going to be threats for you. No one is intimidated by fucking Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne. They're intimidated by Juju Smith-Schuster. They're intimidated by Kenny Galladay. $16 million for like a 3-year deal for either one of them, even a 1-year deal, because both of them seem to be trending towards that right now, according to the rumor mill. I don't get why you would go out of your way to build them like this. It's just, it's annoying. It's annoying because I don't want the Patriots to be good, but they're like shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to wide receivers every fucking year.
Well, this feels like a chicken and the egg conversation prior to this past season of, are these nobody wide receivers good in New England because of Tom Brady, or are they good because of Bill Belichick finding the perfect recipe of how to employ them? Like Chris Hogan's can catch all these passes because Bill Belichick found the right route to run, or because Tom Brady is just very effective at going through his reads and manages to find Hogan at the right time. And that was a chicken and the egg conversation up until last season when we saw it's pretty much just Tom Brady. Now this, could be an opportunity for Belichick to kind of reinvent that narrative. if he has the ability to. But that's the real question. And like I said, you also don't have to do this. Like, you could just go get better players. Spending $11 million a year on Nelson Aguilar, who is, I'm sorry to be mean, but he's been a joke throughout the NFL for stone hands since he came into the league. I mean, he's not going to make your season. And, when Cam Newton struggled as much as he did because of the myriad of reasons that he struggled, again, which are far from being entirely his fault, getting him some decent support on the wide receiver front might go a long way, especially when he is a smart quarterback and a talented dude. And nope, we are going to sign this guy I don't know the name of for a amount of money that is relatively insignificant and could probably be allocated better elsewhere. But
Hey, let's sign 2 speedster wide receivers who could run 50, 60 yards down the field really, really fast, so that our quarterback coming off shoulder surgery, two shoulder surgeries, can throw the ball 13 feet to them. Yeah.
And again, I have to imagine that this is part of the Belichick oeuvre that he's established over the last decade of, I can scheme around every player. Every player has their value. Players are seemingly overpaid across the board, and my genius can compensate for any deficits in their ability. And look, we have 1 year of him doing it without Tom Brady. So is there room for that to still be true? Sure. Is that a reason enough alone to not make a bigger splash in this department? I don't think so. No. It feels very, very like 1980s football-ish. It feels very old school game. I don't get it.
Can you name me one wide receiver drafted by the Patriots in the last decade that you would consider a good wide receiver?
I'm not sure I can name you a wide receiver the Patriots drafted in the last decade. End of sentence.
So the last good wide receiver I can name drafted by the Patriots is a 7th round quarterback in 2009 named Julian Edelman.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
We're both
Yeah.
at a loss. Like, I know it's the Steelers' biggest strength, and being a fan, I'm right there at the forefront, and I know as well as anybody the extent to which they are capable at drafting wide receivers and are the best in the NFL at doing so. But oh my God, seeing the absolute other end of the spectrum where this team just cannot do it. They physically cannot do it. They spend so much fucking capital trying to find a good wide receiver and are just can't do it.
So I'm curious. In 2020, they didn't draft a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, their first overall pick was a wide receiver, N'Keal Harry,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the only wide receiver they picked.
Look at the wide receivers drafted after him that year.
I literally just have the New England draft.
Okay, I'll pull that up. I'll pull that up.
In 2018, in the 6th round, they drafted Braxton Berrios, who I totally forgot about, and he was just on the Jets last season. I totally forgot about him. They did draft a quarterback in 2017. Wide receiver in 2017. They drafted Malcolm Mitchell, who appears to not be in the NFL anymore, in 2016 in the 4th round. And Devin Lucien, who is also no longer in the NFL, drafted in the 7th round. Yeah, I'm not surprised. They didn't draft a wide receiver at all in 2015. They drafted a wide receiver in the 7th round in 2014, a guy who's also no longer in the NFL, Jeremy Gallen. So this is the most recent year they drafted 2 wide receivers in the same draft, 2013, when in the 2nd round they drafted Aaron Dobson, and in the 4th round they drafted Josh Boyce, neither of whom were in the NFL. 2012 they drafted Jeremy Ebert in the 7th round, also no longer in the NFL. In 2011 they didn't draft a wide receiver at all. Wow, this is ridiculous. In 2010 they drafted Taylor Price in the 3rd round. He's no longer in the NFL. And that brings us to 2009. which is only the second year of these past 11 drafts that I just read where they drafted 2 wide receivers in the same draft. And that's Brandon Tate in the 3rd round, not in the NFL anymore, and Julian Edelman in the 7th round, who is still an active player. That's fucking awful. Wow, that actually makes like the Jets wide receiver drafts look good.
Mm-hmm.
That's so bad.
Just for reference, in 2019, N'Keal Harry was the 2nd wide receiver off the board after Marquise Brown, drafted 32nd overall, 1st round. Marquee names that you would know who were drafted following this pick: A.J. Brown, Mecole Hardman, Paris Campbell, D.K. Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Hunter Renfrow, Darius Slayton, Travis Fulgham. Fucking anyone.
Yeah, and now I'm looking at the Jets wide receiver drafts, which has historically been a very weak position for us. And I mean, these are names that I at least know, and some of these players are even still active. And like that's what's so startling about the New England drafts is that they don't even have that. Obviously they just drafted Denzel Mims, so that one's easy. And then 28 nope, they didn't take one in 2018. 2017 Darius Stewart, who never really got off the ground. He's out of the NFL. Chad Hansen, who played for us. I remember him. 2016, Sharon Peak. I remember Sharon Peak. He's still an active player in the NFL. Year before that, Devin Smith, who just never got healthy. But I'm looking at some of these other players. Quincy Enunwa, who was an impact player for us for a couple seasons before injuries kind of ruined his career.
They definitely did.
Yeah. Jeremy Curley, who was an impact player for us for a little bit, it's still sparse, but like at least I know a handful of these names and some of these players are still active. I mean, the Patriots literally had like fucking nobody. It's wild.
Yeah. It's fucking ugly. Can't do it. Can't sign. He signed Randy Moss. That was like the biggest thing he's ever done. Him and Wes Welker. But either way.
Yeah. Damn.
Let's end it.
Yeah, so that's where we stand today. There's obviously going to be more that happens since there's still a lot of players left in free agency who are going to get signed. But this is probably the biggest spurt this week that we're going to see of free agents moving around as teams target the top of their list guys and move their cap around accordingly to accommodate those new contracts. So we'll certainly be seeing more players come off the board as we approach the draft, as we're a little over a month away from it. But teams obviously want to have their positions kind of shored up and let the dust settle on where they think their rosters are at before they determine positions of need and head into the draft itself. So for sure, we're going to get more, but this is, again, probably going to be the biggest burst of player movement we see outside of any fun, kooky trades. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think that's it. There's nothing else I can imagine us talking about. So let's wrap it up here. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at Juicing Pod. We never tweet from it, but you can follow it. You can follow myself on Twitter at Joshua D. Tracy. You can follow Corwin on Twitter at Corwin Heller. And if you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And until Monday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.